Hello, I am Gepwin and welcome to the Armor Stand Hidden Door Redstone tutorial. That's a mouthful. This is my hidden door contraption that I'm going to be showing you how to build today. It's perfect for some castle builds if you decorate it like this. You can decorate it some other ways to make it fit into more things. The main important bit is the armor stand and this little cutaway, so it looks like a little decorative element in any old build, which I think is pretty cool looking. Now this one I decorated up with buttons, and part of that is to hide the input, which is right over here. So you're walking along, you think this can't possibly be a secret door, there's an armor stand in the way, and you move on. But you know better because you can break the button. You can hit this button, drop your armor stand down, and open up a hidden passageway. Then when you want it closed, you just hit the button again, and your armor stand and door pops back up just like that, hiding it, obscuring it, making it exactly the same as it was before. It all goes pretty fast, all things considered. Like, you can hit this button and walk forward and you make it. So I'm pretty happy with the speed. The size I'm not as happy with. To build this, you are going to need an 8 wide by 11 long by 11 deep area. Not small. Not small. Let me show you the circuitry really quick. This is my second attempt because I was trying to make it a little bit better. I think I succeeded. But I'll show you the circuitry really quick, and then we'll build another one so that you can see how to actually manufacture this thing. Now I'm trying to not give it an exact block by block by block because I want you to understand the mechanics so you can build it yourself, because you can move things around, change the input, you know, do whatever. So the basic middle of this, the back is a very, very simple 2x2 piston door that will move these blocks aside. It's got two sticky pistons on the side that is turned on and off by this redstone line going up the slabs. On the side, when this is on, they extend and close up the wall, so it looks like this. When it is off, these retract and open up the wall so that these are now flush with the walls of your secret corridor. That is the easy bit. Underneath here we have a flush with the floor 2x1 redstone trap door. This is 4 sticky pistons and 2 sticky pistons pointing up. These 2 sticky pistons, when are turned off, they retract and pull down 2 blocks of the floor. Tick later, these retract, which pulls these out of the way and lets the armor stand fall down onto these slime blocks. Now the second time that you activate the door, this happens again, and right after that happens, these slime blocks push the armor stand back up, and these extend again and close up the floor underneath it. The whole thing is powered by this rising edge monostable circuit. It is simply a observer block attached to a sticky piston. When you activate it, the sticky piston moves down, sends out a signal, sets up the whole thing going, and you see that the armor stand has fallen down here with exactly enough clearance to fit under the pistons. If we hit this button again, you will see it pops up through the middle there. It's very difficult to explain because there's a lot of stuff going on, including this thing here. We're going to go through and build it, but it's hard to show because it's very compact in here for as big as it is. There's a lot of stuff going on. Now, every other time you hit the button, you want those sticky pistons or sticky blocks downstairs to extend. The slime blocks, I'm sorry. Every time you hit the button, you don't want the slime blocks extending. You want them to extend now, not the first time. So every other time you hit the button, you need the slime blocks to fire. Otherwise, your armor stand just continually bounces up and down every time you hit the button, and that's no good. In order to achieve that, we have this T flip-flop, because this monostable circuit gives us a 1-tick pulse. It can power this 1-tick T flip-flop, the toggleable flip-flop, which is just a sticky piston and a redstone block. So when you hit this, the sticky piston will grab the redstone block, turning off all of this redstone. This redstone is what is connected to the door, so that turns off the door. It is also connected to this block, which prevents the which prevents the slime blocks from firing when it is retracted. We'll get in more to that in a little later. If you hit this again, the 1 tick pulse from the monostable circuit causes this block to spit out the block it was holding instead of pulling it back again, and that toggles your T flip-flop redstone on the back side. That's the bit of the explanation. I know that might have been a little hard to follow, but we are just about to start building this thing. So let's pick a new spot and start remaking this from scratch so you can see how it is done. Now I've marked out a 11 wide block here. About 4 in from the back is where you're going to want to put your gap for the floor. So from the front, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wall, 8 gap for the floor, 9, 10, 11 is the back here. So if you have your gap here, and then you would have your wall here, and it goes out by 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1 more on each side for the wall. Now you need this to be kind of up above the floor because we're going to use this for a few things. So you've got a wall here, you've got a gap where you are going to have your drop down, and now it's time to start putting in some sticky pistons. So to make the trapdoor floor, you're going to need 4 sticky pistons placed 1 block back from where this floor is. So 4 sticky pistons. And then you are going to need the same block that you're using for the floor on top of those. And then facing up into those, you're going to need 2 more sticky pistons facing up into these blocks. There. Now, in order to power these, I'm going to use this orange circuit here. Now, we're going to take advantage of the fact that redstone torches will power multiple pistons at once. So if we place redstone torches here, you see all 4 of these pistons have been pushed forward. Ignore the skeletons. All 4 of these pistons have been pushed forward, moving this trapdoor into position. We're going to have to deal with that in a minute. Now, in order to fire these, unfortunately, we do have to run repeaters into the back of these blocks here. So right behind your orange circuit for these extenders, you're going to need to run repeaters into these blocks. When these repeaters power these blocks, it will switch these torches off, which will retract these pistons. Since we are using since this is going the opposite way, so when you give it a signal, this turns off, this defaults to being extended. So when you give it power, it will retract, and when you take power away, it will extend. That is perfect for what we are trying to do here. Now you just need a little bit of redstone dust, and that is that part finished. Now on the back here, which we're going to use our purple circuit. There we go. On the back here, right running along the back, just on the edge, you are going to need some more redstone. This redstone dust is going to power these pistons here. So extend it out by 1 more, and then you want to have a block that goes up here and put a redstone torch on that block. You now have this circuit completed. Now you have to connect them. You have both of these circuits all extending to close up the floor when they're not receiving power. Now you do have to just connect them up with some redstone going along the edge here. You're going to want a repeater going into this block. That'll help power the block and also avoid it from crossing over with other circuits later, and then just give it some redstone going straight around this way. Now right over here is where we are going to have our input circuit, but we aren't going to put that in quite yet. Not quite. So for now, we are going to put in a tester lever. So you see, if we turn this redstone on, it all retracts, but not in the correct order. So what we are going to have to do is set all these up for later. So we want to extend these out all the way. Take the 2 repeaters that are going into these and set them to maximum, which would be 4 ticks. And then, just to make everything work well for later, we had that set to 1 tick, yes. So set this one to 1 tick, set these to 4 ticks. Now you see these retract first, which then get pulled back to move the floor out of the way. If you hit it again, the floor comes back into the way. So if I grab an armor stand, you can see that if we put an armor stand onto this, it would help if I put it in the right place. If we put an armor stand onto this and move this out of the way, the armor stand will fall straight down and land where our slime blocks are going to be. So that is the first part of your circuit done. Now the next part of the circuit involves the hidden switch. Now you could kind of put this switch anywhere. It depends on where you are actually going to be hiding your inputs. For the design I was going for, I went with a hidden button input by just using decorative buttons all the way around the door. Now this works out well because you often see buttons used in this kind of decorative manner, and they're very difficult to see on the stone. So if you have a lot of them around, you won't even be able to tell they are there. So let's get rid of that. Now for this monostable circuit, you want a falling edge or rising edge monostable circuit, which means it will trigger when you first hit the button and not trigger when the button turns off, and that will generate a 1 tick pulse. The very easiest way that I found to do this was to put a observer block onto this sticky piston. This is something that's used a lot. You just put the sticky piston, the observer block on the sticky piston so that it's facing out toward the what we're going to call the front of the machine. So when you push this button, it falls down. Moving a observer block causes it to trigger because it counts as the block behind it having been updated. So it goes through an update and it falls down and triggers. Now we need to put in a little bit of a circuit down here that will allow this to activate. So if we hit this button, it goes down, it activates the floor, and then when it goes back up, this line turns off and the floor goes back up, giving us a very quick retraction and extension of our 2x1 trapdoor. The next step is to hook this up to our door mechanism in back. We will deal with the slime blocks and everything later on. So I made the door with a flip-flop, a toggleable flip-flop circuit, which we just hook up a sticky piston to this same line. Because this is a 1 tick pulse, it makes a flip-flop very, very easy to make. We showed this before. Every time you hit this button, it is going to change the position of this redstone block. Now I also got rid of this block just to make sure we didn't accidentally power anything. It shouldn't, but it makes me feel a little better. Now, when this block is out, we want it to connect up to our door mechanism. So let's quickly make the door mechanism. You need a couple of your wall blocks back here, whatever you want to make your little indent out of, and then back from those, you are going to want your sticky pistons coming out this way so that when they extend, they push all the way out to where your blocks need to be when your door is closed. So in order to connect those up, we need to run a redstone line up from this block. Now that actually becomes a little complicated because it's hard to get the redstone to actually trigger off of this block. You see, we can't put it there because the slab doesn't work out. If we put it up here, it doesn't actually connect. The only way that we can do it is if we put a slab underneath and connect the redstone up like this. We're using slabs so that we can move it up the chain where we need to. I just now realized that I built this entire setup one block too far forward. I always leave in mistakes in tutorials when I do tutorials because it shows you common things that can go wrong. So we accidentally built the wall one step too forward. We built it on top of our trapdoor instead of behind. There we are. So unfortunately that does mean we're going to have to rebuild some parts of this. I thought this looked like it was in the wrong place. So we have this for the indent. This is where the wall goes, one in front of the indent. And even with where our trapdoor goes. So that means when we put the monostable circuit onto this, it is even with where this repeater is. Then we put in the redstone that will trigger that repeater. We give it the button up top, and you see it's still working fine. There we go. Then we put the pistons back here to work with the door. There we are. We still want the piston down here that toggles our T flip-flop immediately under our switch. There we are. Because we're dealing with the one tick pulse, this T flip-flop works out very well. We still need the slabs, and we still need the slab to go underneath here. Now this is one to the left of where we need the signal to eventually wind up. So what we have to do is run the signal up this way. Now you see this is even with where we need it to wind up top. So we're just going to have to continue this line up here. Slabs are an interesting one in Minecraft because of the weird connectivity of the redstone. Come on, please. Just go. They're difficult to place, but if you can get slabs going up this way, they're transparent. The transparentness of them, or the semi-transparentness, it's a weird one. They allow the redstone to connect, but since it's a half slab, they don't actually block off the signal. If we had put a block like this, it would block off the signal that's coming from this lower slab. But since we're not using blocks, we're using slabs. If we put a slab here, it triggers up this direction. Now up here you see that this is even with the top of the block above it right there. So I don't think that this can necessarily cause us too many problems, but just in case I put a block here. Now that actually does trigger this when this is on, but that's not a problem. I just don't want this triggering backward. So we're going to continue this up going this way as if we had full blocks on each of these until we get up to here where we put our redstone dust. Redstone dust in between these two triggers this thing. Now this should not be triggered by this block. Because if we had redstone dust on top, I think it could be, but that should not be interacted with by this block in any way. We can kind of test this by turning this off. Alright, this is not going. Then if we grab ourselves a lever and turn this on, it deactivates this redstone, which pulls the door down, but it does not activate this redstone line. So we don't need to worry about that crossing over. Well done. Now we have half of our door mechanism triggering when we hit this button. So you see it pulls back the door and it triggers the trapdoor. There we go. Now we just need to run it across. You see here we have run this straight across all the way to the other side from that line, and we did it on the yellow circuit just to keep things straight and nice. So we take the yellow circuit over here. We have exactly the same setup on this area. We can kind of build it down a little bit so that we can tell where we need it to start. It should be 1 over, yep. And then we just have to kind of build up this direction in a very kind of awkward awkward way. Build this down. Come on. Down, down, break, and then just continue the redstone up here and connect a redstone line all the way across this. Now, this one here, we do have to worry about whether it's connecting or not. So what we want is to put some redstone blocks up here to prevent it from cross-connecting with that line. Now, you see we have the entire door set up on that line. There we go. Now for the most important part, the armor stand drop and slime blocks. So you grab some slime blocks and you go 2 down from there. There we are. That's 2 down. You go 2 down from this area here so that the armor stand has enough space to stand. Why doesn't it have space to stand? Come on. There we go. So that the armor stand can fit in right below these pistons. So you have 2 slime blocks right there. Now, slime blocks can be pushed up by sticky pistons, so we put a sticky piston directly underneath that facing up so that it will be pushed up and bounce when the sticky piston is triggered. Now, it took me a little while to work out the timing for this, but I found that the best way to get this to trigger at the proper time to bounce your armor stand up is to run a couple of observer blocks down from this redstone. So if you extend the redstone that you're using to extend your pistons here out by 1, when this turns on or off, it's going to update your observer, which will update this observer, which will update this observer, which will send a signal down to here. If we make that on the pink line, just so that we can see what's going on, we need to put a 1-tick repeater here so that this can fire and unfire without it being a flip-flop switch like that one, because we are dealing with 1-tick pulses from the observer blocks. And then we just bring the wool over this way. Observer blocks will power this down through 1 and then connect over to here. So if we put an armor stand on our trapdoor now, you should see it bounces up and down when we hit the button. So we hit the button, it triggers the bouncing, it doesn't work. There we go, it triggers the bounce. This goes down and bounces up. This goes down and bounces up. Now you see it bounces back up every time we hit the button, because every time we hit the button it is triggering those blocks down there. That is the problem. We need it to not trigger every time. But overall, this is currently working. It's doing exactly what we want to do. The problem is that these are firing every time we hit the button instead of the every other time that we need. Now, in order to do that, we simply need to route this signal through another block. So if we put a block here, this is going to function the same way. These two are going to create signals, and this is going to power this block, which is going to power this redstone, which is going to power this piston. As you can see, if we hit this button, nothing has actually changed. For some reason, the first time you trigger this thing, it seems to always bounce up. Okay, now it's working for some reason. This never works when I do it the other way, so I think it can possibly break. So if it works for you at this stage, fine, you have now finished. If it bounces up every time for you still, then I will show you the workaround that I had for that. So when we come down here, we already have this line set up. We want this to bounce up when this door is closed, which means we can in fact simply have this extended when this redstone line is on. So if we grab a sticky piston and we put it 2 back from this area here, this is extended when this redstone is on. You see, we don't really need to do anything. We just need to put it next to the redstone. when it's on. So just bring this down, give this a redstone line, because this is kind of a quasi-conductivity thing that doesn't always trigger. And now when this redstone line is on, this is extended, which means this will trigger. When this redstone line turns off, this will retract, which keeps it from triggering. So now if we hit this button, that drops down and opens the door. That has pulled this back. If we hit it again, this will push forward and allow it to trigger again. So when we hit the button, that pushes forward, that pushes the armor stand up and into position. Now the circuit is actually all finished. Like I said, you may or may not need this extra bit here that prevents it from firing. I found in some of the times I've tried this that the armor stand does bounce up and down every time you hit the button if you don't have this piston. If you don't find that problem, then leave this piston out and your design will be easier, but it's a very, very simple thing to add. Now then, for the very, very final bit here, we just want to finish decorating up around the sides. And I found a nice little touch. Right now you see the armor stand is kind of pushed over to the edge. I found a nice little touch to deal with that, is to get a couple of water buckets, which work weirdly differently in creative mode. So I had to grab a water bucket and an empty bucket and switch between them very fast. You won't have this problem if you are in single player survival. Now you just put water right on top of the armor stand on the side here, wait for it to push itself over a teeny bit and remove the water. You now have a decorative armor stand right in the middle, and you can of course just decorate that up with whatever you feel like, your diamond armor, your gold armor, your whatever, to make it all fit into theme. And if you add some more decorative buttons around the walls, then it will be very difficult to spot which one of these is supposed to actually trigger your machine. But you will know. You will know. This is perfect for some castle builds. Even staring at it right here, you wouldn't expect this to be a secret door with things in the way, even knowing that armor stands move. It's a little bit unusual. And then you hit this button, and you've opened up yourself a nice little pathway. You hit this button again, and your decorations move back into place. So that's wonderful. I haven't tested this with other things like anvils and stuff. You should be able to make a variation of this with anything that can drop and be moved around by sticky pistons. Kind of want to try it with an anvil now. Yeah, let's try it with an anvil just really quick, because I just want to know. I just want to know. This might not work the same, so let's see. If we hit this button, the anvil drops. If we hit this button again, the anvil does not come back, because I think the anvil is probably too heavy. Yes, the anvil is preventing the slime blocks from firing. Alright, now we know that. Only use it with armor stands. Only use it with armor stands, folks. Not anvils. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you can find fun and interesting ways to implement it. I know it's not as compact as it could be. I'm still learning some of the finer redstone bits. So if you have any improvements or ways that I could make this better for the future, or compact it down, or make it a little more resource light, I would really appreciate hearing them. You can let me know in the comments. If you implement this into your own world in a really cool way, I would love to see it. So you can put links to videos or pictures or whatever in the description as well. There we go. This has been my first redstone tutorial. I didn't want to say that at the beginning in case you turned it off immediately. So tips, feedback, etc. very much appreciated at this stage. And if you liked it, leave a like so that I know to make more things like this. Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, my name is Gepwin. Thanks again for coming by and watching this armor stand dropper door tutorial. And I will see you soon.